Alright, so a couple of things have come to my attention that are important and of interest. The first one has to do with some of the scriptures that talk about God and renewing ourselves and our hearts and minds. It's interesting to note that much of our problems are internal. They come from inside. And being able to deal with some of these problems can be very difficult because we are trying to use external means to deal with them when they come from our core, so to speak. Now, whether or not we pick up bad habits or we get into we pick up baggage and get into problems and pick up unhealthy habits and all that stuff is understandable, but being able to deal with a lot that comes from inside does require renewing of our mind and transformation of ourselves. That's something that I guess is worth pondering, that I want to say the scriptures that the Bible does deal with very well. Now, for other religions and faiths, they don't hit the same notes and they don't provide some of the same answers to some of these issues and problems and basically what humans do. Alright, the second one is, it has to do with an aspect of the great men of the Bible that are really not talked about anywhere else, and that is something that it's a very fine point, but it's one that I think is also worth investigating. I believe that many of these men, or at least some of these men, were physically superior and great, but they had to let go of that or be stripped of it because it was actually getting in the way of them growing on a spiritual level. Now, if you're physically full and superior, it's really hard to learn anything that is spiritual. So, being a spiritual giant probably cannot happen if you are physically full, if you're physically, what's the word? If you have everything together on a physical level, I guess in some ways you could equate that to having your cup being full, and you can't learn things of a spiritual nature if your cup is full, so to speak. There's a lot of different characteristics and qualities that are needed to become great on a spiritual level. Now, obviously, that doesn't really matter to a lot of people because they don't see it as being relevant or important, and it has no value to them, so that's understandable. But either way, I think it's worth mentioning, but whether or not I develop the entire video for these two topics, I guess will remain up in the air for the time being. They're important. Well, there's other topics to talk about. Alright, until next time.